Hey, come join me. How are you doing?
I'm doing really, really well.
You doing good?
Yeah. Are you going to get through this okay?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
You realize no one gave me questions.
They're all right here.
Oh, good.
Hang on, let me shuffle them.
Okay, can I use the one that Christy came up with? We came up with about 35 this afternoon.
I've already circled the ones that I want answered.
Oh, okay.
They're the ones with the black boxes around them.
So do the ones with the black boxes.
Yep, and then any out of these.
Okay. How about
Oh, can everybody hear me? Hello? Hi.
Okay. Tell me again.
All of these,
Wait,
and then the
so-
black boxes.
So do these first?
Eh,
Let's do
doesn't
these
really
first in
matter.
case I can't read these.
Sure.
Okay, these.
Take them all.
What are these? The
Just
stars?
ignore the stars. Ignore those.
Damn.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Hello, Jess. Thank you guys for being here. I'm really sorry I'm late. I actually had to eat, so I probably set a new world record on how quickly to down a New York strip. Anyway, thank you for waiting, and it's great to have everybody here tonight. So, thank you. Before we get started, there actually is some people I'd really like to thank for everything that they've done for this event. And of course, I have so many notes. Sorry, I've been running around. I had no time to prepare. I actually wanted to, here it is. First off, I did want to thank K-Pro and Calazars for everything that they've done. Really couldn't have pulled it off without you guys, so thank you. I'm really bummed that Mike couldn't be here also. I hope he's doing good. Cynthia, thank you for being up here, for helping MC this. And then Jam with Treasure Hunt with us. Thank you guys for the live streaming and all the support this week. Thank you. Rebecca at the Chamber of Commerce, thank you for shutting down the street and making things happen. I'd also like to thank Daniel and the film crew for everything they've been doing throughout the week. Huge help. The guys are everywhere all the time. I don't know how they do it. And of course, all of you guys. This is really what it's about. So thank you for you. And last but not least, I really did want to thank Debbie at the bookstore. I think she did a phenomenal job. So I know the real reason here, all these questions. There were a lot, and I almost had enough time to get through all of them, but not quite. So I haven't had any time to prepare. You'll have to probably give me a slight amount of grace here because I could totally screw up these answers, but I'm going to try my best. So Cynthia's going to be reading them, and from my perspective, actually, to make this fair, hold on.
Sorry? What do you say?
Test. To make sure this is fair, I'm just going to shuffle them right now. So I don't know if we'll get through all of these, but we're going to do our best.
Get the mic closer to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Justin, I can start with these on the table. Or do you want me to start with this?
Surprise me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we'll change. Can I talk while you're doing it?
You can do whatever you like.
Okay, I just want everyone to know that, I don't know, a week or whatever ago, Justin asked me if I would be the one to ask him the questions for the Q&A.
Okay, we got one working.
Okay, so let me talk into your microphone.
Why don't we do that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, no, and I'll go back and doing that. Okay, so while they're fixing the microphone. Okay, can you all hear me now? Okay, so what I was starting to say before was, a couple weeks ago, Justin asked me if I would ask the questions for the Q&A, and I said, are you crazy? Because you never know what I'm going to say. And he assured me that he was good with it. So it's like, I am honored to be the one to ask the questions. But what Justin doesn't know is, for every question that he says he won't answer, I'm going to hit him with a shot of bear spray, which I have, and I'm going to start in the center of his body like I did myself, and then we will work from there.
Gee, thanks. You're hiding here.
All right, I think we're going to start with the questions. I actually did want to. Now you're stressing me out here. I actually did want to say a lot more, but I know we're a little pressed for time now. Things kind of got a little behind schedule today, so thanks for being patient. I really appreciate it. But we'll fire off some questions here and see where we land. Do you want to start with some of the questions, or would you like me to read them? Sure.
Okay, we'll see if this works. Okay? Okay, don't be looking. Okay. Forrest Fenn's first clue was WWH. Can you tell us what is your first clue in your poem?
Yes.
Okay.
But I want to make sure I get it right, so I want to look at my own poem to make sure. Can I take a look at it? Is there somebody has a book handy by chance? Hey! Okay, I want to make sure I answer this correctly. I think the most actionable first clue in the poem that gives you sufficient context would be "As hope surges clear and bright."
Okay, question number 2. This is what most of us want to know. Has anyone reached the checkpoint?
To my uncertain knowledge, no. I'll also say that, as far as I know, surprisingly, actually, I have not heard anyone mention the correct answer to the cipher yet. And I think I mentioned there is one other arguably technical thing that is involved in solving this. It's not like a core part of the poem, but it's something that I think people would find interesting. And only one person in the world has solved it so far, and they've been very quiet about it. I don't think I've seen it. Actually, no, I did see it one time on one social media venue, which was actually kind of funny because everyone blew right past him and didn't give him the time of day, and no one noticed that he had figured it out. So that was pretty interesting.
Good answer. Nice. Whoa. Okay, next. Are you at last halfway through the poem clues when you reach the checkpoint?
Let me read that.
Okay. This one, number 9.
Are you at least halfway through?
The poem clues.
Yes, I think so. Yep, that's fair to say.
Good answer.
The question was, are you at least halfway through the poem clues when you reach the checkpoint?
Did not.
Read the squares or don't read the squares?
No stars.
Oh, I thought I was supposed to read the squares.
The squares, yeah.
You can read them or you cannot?
Squares, yes. Stars, no.
Squares, yes. That's what we're doing. Okay, perfect. Okay.
Okay, now we know the rules. It's a good thing, so you don't get bear sprayed. Okay. Are there any clues or hints in the songs in your treasure hunt? Are there any clues or hints in the songs in your treasure hunt?
Yes.
Whoa. Whoa. Good answer. Good. Okay, next. Is there a hint in the statement you traveled over 9,000 miles in 2 trips? Do you want to read the words?
Yeah, let me reread
14,
that.
Number 14.
Is there a hint in the statement you traveled over 9,000 miles in 2 trips? The purpose of the 9-mile or over 9,000 mile statement was to convey that I traveled a great distance throughout the Rockies and the American West as part of hiding the treasure. And it's really not meant to read in anything more than that. It's basically meant to say that I traveled a great distance and somewhere along my route, I hid the treasure. It could have been at the beginning of the route, in the middle, in the end, somewhere along the path.
Good one. Okay, this is especially important for someone for me, of my stature. For anyone who would struggle with carrying 60 pounds in one trip, can you give us any advice on how to retrieve the treasure container and its contents successfully? So in other words, if I can't carry the treasure and the container in one trip, what's your advice?
So if you've figured out exactly where the treasure is at, you will have sufficient time to plan how you wish to retrieve it.
Would I be able to bring a llama? I have a friend in Dillon who has a llama, and she said, or an alpaca, well, whatever, some kind of a pack animal.
That's a big difference.
Is that, oh my God, is that a clue then? It depends on, he just said it depends if it's an alpaca, a llama, or a mule.
I think actually any of those animals would be able to help you out.
Okay, next one. Why will you not tell us what the treasure container is?
You know, I've been hesitant to mention what the container is, mainly because of artificial intelligence, and also to prevent people from creating decoys or for someone to claim that they have found it and to recreate what the container looks like in order to make a farce and upset people. As we all know, that happens from time to time, unfortunately. I think there's a bad apple in every bunch. It's not to say that there's any in this room. But it's also AI, because I think as time progresses, artificial intelligence will soon be in a position where it will be a formidable force when it comes to things like treasure hunts. And so I think, actually, it's a bigger topic. It's kind of a strange thing to think about. You know, AI is on the precipice of encapsulating the entirety of human knowledge. And it's not just a function of having the knowledge, it's acting on that knowledge in an intelligent manner. And so very soon, AI will be smarter than all of us in this room combined. And it's a bit of a paradox. How do you create a puzzle for an intellect that dwarfs your own? It's like a mouse trying to create a puzzle for a human. It sounds pretty silly. And that's really where we stand with artificial intelligence. And so a big portion of the time that I spent designing this treasure hunt was to make it accessible and understandable and approachable by humans, but not by AI. And that's a really hard thing to do, actually, because soon we'll be in a position where I think that those two will start to blend together in a way that is kind of scary. And if you take that one step further and you were to have AI built into, say, a robot, that gets very scary. You could actually have a legion of robots that go out and say, find the treasure. I know it sounds crazy, but I do genuinely believe that we're not far off from that. And that's really something that I did not want to happen. And time will tell whether or not that actually works out to our advantage, but we'll see how it goes.
This is a good one. Do you think that once someone is successful in reaching the checkpoint, that they will be the ultimate finder? Do you think that once someone is successful in reaching the checkpoint, that they will be the ultimate finder?
So I know there's probably some folks in this room who have no idea what this checkpoint business is. There's a lot of kind of context that have built up to this. I've had a number of interviews over the past where I had mentioned that a portion of this treasure hunt involves, for what I call, a lack of a better term, a checkpoint. And it's a way for you to know that you're trending in the right direction. Kind of consider it like something that you may find along the way that you realize unequivocally, without a doubt, I know that I'm correct. I did this on purpose, partially to combat some of the AI concerns. And so I think it is fair to say whoever finds the checkpoint has an excellent chance of finding the treasure as well.
Good to know. Good one. Okay. Were there any clues or lines in your poem that changed significantly from the first draft to the final version?
So I mentioned this before, but for those that are not aware, I wrote the bulk of that poem in a number of hours. It was like, I don't know, probably 6 hours or less. And I think from the time that I originally, so two things. First off, I purposely didn't finish the entire poem until the day the book went to print. And, hello? Oh, I did that on purpose because I wanted to make sure no one had access to the poem beforehand. It was really important to me that no one had a big leg up over anybody else. So if you imagine, there's editors involved, there's the printing company, illustrators, all sorts of people, and it is true that they had access to subsets of the book ahead of time, but no one had access to the poem until the very end because I never finished it until the last hour. And despite that last bit that I filled in at the end, to my recollection, nothing significantly changed from the very first draft that I wrote. So it was, I think I only tweaked maybe 2 words tops. So it was pretty static.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Are you planning on ruling out a search state? Like Montana.
You better get ready for the bear spray. You know, I think, oh boy.
No, just, all you have to do is, if you don't have
I'm messing with you. You know, there have been a lot of people asking for extra hints and clues, and I totally get it. What's a little bit different right now compared to Forrest Fenn's treasure hunt is that we're what? March, April, May, we're like 3 months in. I think Forrest, for the first, couple of years at least, didn't really give much of anything, as I recall. And so I think we're still really early. I'm hesitant to narrow down the search area significantly to give everybody a chance, because I feel like there are some people that are just starting out on this, and I know that especially during the summer months, people are planning their travel, and I guess it's kind of crappy either way now that I think about it. So I spent a lot of time searching in Idaho for Forrest Fenn's treasure, for instance, and then he went and cut the state, and it's like, wow, there were a lot of people that were really upset. It's like, I spent all this time searching in Idaho, and then he just cuts it. Like, to me, it was great. Like, thank you. I mean, I enjoyed the treasure hunting there in the state, but great, I have less search area now. So I don't want people to be upset, but I think eventually, if it has not been found, I will start eliminating states. This treasure hunt is not meant to last a millennia or anything like that. I want it to continue to progress. And so I think if there isn't any real kind of tangible progress over the coming months, I'll certainly consider that. But I'm sorry to disappoint tonight. I'm not going to eliminate any state, but I'll consider it in the future. Yeah.
So since he just said the words Forrest Fenn, I'm ad-libbing. Did you make a blaze on a tree?
Oh, I will answer that, yes. Actually, I will answer that. No. Just no. The problem, okay, I'm going to rant just a little bit, sorry.
Go ahead.
That was, I wouldn't say problem, but that was one of the, yeah, it was a problem, That was one of the problems with the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt, I felt, is that the blaze or the marker at the end was something that could not stand the test of time. There were a lot of things that could have caused the blaze to go away. It could have been a forest fire. It could have been a strong wind that had blown the tree down, an earthquake. There are a lot of different things, I think, that could cause damage like that. And it was important to me that it's designed in a way where it can stand the test of time. So I don't have any clues. I didn't put, anything out in the woods or the wilderness that would be subject to destruction by natural forces. Now, I can't control everything. I suppose under a very specific set of circumstances, damage could occur, but I would know if it did. And that's not fair to anybody, to be out searching for something that cannot be found. So if something like that were to happen in a astronomically low chance, I think it's only fair to everybody that I would just tell you, it got damaged, sorry. But I don't anticipate anything like that happening. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks for answering that. Okay, this is sort of long and complicated. Can you verify 100% the treasure container and its contents are not a proxy item? The treasure container and gold, treasure, etc., is actually located at the final resting spot.
Good question. So there have been a number of people that have asked me, oh, maybe you put, something out in the wilderness, and it's like a key to a safety deposit box, and then you go there and get the treasure. That's really not what I was going for here. I wanted like that shock and awe, right? You get there, you find the treasure, and it's real, physical, in the wilderness. And as I mentioned before, it's filled to the gills with stuff, with treasure. I could not put anything else in there. It just wouldn't fit. But it is out there. It's not, in some bank somewhere or something like that. It's out there hidden to be found. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now we're to the questions that I haven't pre-read, so hopefully I can read the writing. Okay, number one. What is the title of the book that Uncle Hiram gave you?
Yeah, so for those who are unaware, I think it's in the story, The Conquistador Conquest. I talk about my Uncle Hiram, who's sitting in the back right there. He gave me a book on Spanish clues and markers, and I was pretty enthralled with it at the time. Of course, it led to sunburn, but I don't blame him. I can visualize the book, but I don't recall the title. And if someone can track it down, I'd love it. It has a thick black border, and then inside it has a white inset area that has a bunch of Spanish symbols inside of it. And it has a pretty overt title, something like Treasure Symbols of the Southwest or something like that. Sorry? There's treasure inside. No. I don't recall the name, but if someone happens upon the book, I'd be happy to announce it on, my website or something. It's not a big secret or anything like that. Early Spanish signs and symbols. That sounds right. If I actually saw the cover, I'd be sure, but that sounds right. Yeah. It wasn't a very thick book. It was probably pretty thin. Yeah. Yep, that's right. It had some hand drawings in it. Yeah, you got it. That's the one. What she said.
Okay, this is awesome because this is actually the question I put in at the bookstore. So I can give a little bit of background. So the question is, are you willing to talk about any of your crazy adventures that are not in Beyond the Map's Edge, like stepping on a sea urchin in Mexico? And the reason I'm asking that is, I've had people actually ask me saying, you know Justin well, do you think he has elaborated and made up some of the stories? And I said, hell no. If something bad could happen, it has happened to him.
Okay, so
I love the sea urchin story.
the sea urchin. Oh, jeez.
Maybe some of the other ones on the list. Whatever.
Yeah. So when I first started thinking about this book, it was basically just a bunch of chicken scratch. It was terrible. And I had way more chapters than anybody would ever care to read. And I didn't want it to be like a math textbook, and be so daunting. And so I started just having to cut stories. So there are a number of stories that I did not include. The one that she mentioned, actually, I never wrote about, but the Reader's Digest version would be, I was in Puerto Vallarta. I was probably 13 years old, and I was battling the waves out there with my brother, and I stepped on something. I didn't have my glasses on, and so it was all fuzzy, and I pulled this thing out of my foot, and I got really dizzy, and it was super painful, and I passed out, and I woke up in a Mexican hospital, and I spent 3 days there. It was pretty terrible. I don't recommend it. I think it was some kind of sea urchin, but I don't really know the details on it. So, but yeah, I have other stories. I can probably just post them on my website or something. I'll figure out what to do with them. They're not terribly interesting, so.
Okay, this is a multi-question about one subject. What was your first computer? What computer did you last buy as a kid? Were you a PC or a Mac guy? Are you an Android user or iOS? Wow. Do you want to see all of these? That's
a lot of questions. Wow. First computer. That was an Apple IIe. Yes, I'm old. What computer did you last buy? I think it was a MacBook Pro, mostly for work more than anything. Not very exciting. As a kid, were you a PC or Mac guy? Despite my first computer being an Apple IIe, I was more of a PC guy for a number of years. I think probably until I left Microsoft in 2012, I think it was. And yeah, I actually don't don't throw things at me, but these days I normally use an iOS device, not Android.
Very good. How far back has your family genealogy been traced?
You know, somebody actually emailed me with a family tree, I think on Ancestry.com, that they had put together. It was actually really interesting. I've been meaning to merge that in with the one that I have. I think on my father's side, I'm able to trace it back quite a bit more than my mother's side. Mostly French and German and English. So certainly, you know, pre-Mayflower days. I don't recall the exact dates though.
Are you going to do all these?
Yeah. See what we can do.
Okay, good. Okay. I like this one. What is your best advice to approaching a solved poem, book? I don't know that word. What's the strategy and the best process?
Wait, good question. Poem, book, show, best process or strategy. So I think most people that have heard about this had no idea about this Forrest Fenn thing. So I think like the show is just a good primer for that, to kind of understand a little bit of the backstory. There are definitely hints in the series that I snuck in. But you know, the bulk of the important stuff, I would say, is in the book and the poem. So I guess the process I would suggest is you watch the series, try not to fall asleep. You, even more challenging, try and read that book. And then read the poem a few times, and then go back through it again, the show really slowly, and think about each scene. And actually, this is kind of funny. To my uncertain knowledge, there are 2 hints in the Netflix series that I laugh every time they come up, because they're, to me, like they're just super, super obvious, and no one has noticed. And I'm just kind of blown away at this point, and I feel like it's a joke or something that nobody's telling me. But there are 2 scenes in particular where I don't understand what's happening, because it's super obvious. Like, I almost just want to say it. Like, no, no.
Okay, wait a second. Okay, the next question, and this is serious. The next question. What would you be willing to share this evening that is a clue that would shake the Frontier Center and Posey treasure hunting community?
Oh, boy. I'm having an internal debate. Just give me a minute. Okay, how do I phrase this? It's funny, I don't recall which episode. It's either 2 or 3. It is a scene that does not have me in it. But it was a scene that I had some control over. I think if you rewatch it, it'll be pretty obvious, I hope. Yeah.
Whoa, thank you. I was worried I was going to have to get the bear spray, but I didn't. Okay. This is from Sterling. What is your favorite color and food?
Color and food. Not shrimp.
Not shrimp.
Yeah, well, I pretty much always wear blue, so blue is my favorite color, kind of a navy blue. Food. Wait, who said that? That's a dicey answer. It's going to sound strange. I actually really like okra. I mean, I know, right? It was slimy. Fried okra is pretty awesome.
What app or system do you recommend to see established property lines to make sure we stay on public land?
So for those that don't know, the treasure is publicly accessible. You don't have to go gallivanting on somebody's private property. Please, please, please don't do that. I'm sure especially people that live in this area would very much appreciate it, and everybody else throughout the entire search range. Let's just keep it safe and fair. And legal. So there are a few apps out there. I think they're available both on Android and iOS. One of them is, I think the most approachable one is called OnX. That's ONX. They have like a backpacking version, I think, and they have a hunting one. Any of those will do. And what you can do is, if there's a search area you're interested in, you can kind of zoom in on that area, and it'll show you all the surrounding property rights, so you don't have to guess. And if it's not publicly accessible land, just cross it off right away. And then if you're a more advanced user, what I had used for many years is an app called Gaia. That's Gaia. It's a little more advanced because there's a ton of different layers that you can add to it, and it's, not for the faint of heart, but OnX does great. Oh, I see a hand raised. Will I specify if it's on federal or state land? No, but it's publicly accessible as of today. Yeah. We have a loophole virtuoso in the room. So I hope I don't screw up the law here. Don't take legal advice from me, but it is my understanding that in many places in Montana, if you are on a waterway that is considered navigable, in other words, one where you can float a watercraft, you can actually float through private property because the owner, the person is allowed to access the area up to the high water mark, as I recall. Don't quote me on that. You might want to look it up. But it is fair to say if it's publicly accessible, it's fair game.
Okay. Did you design and make the cover art?
Ah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so the cover art on the book, I actually did design that first. And I gave it to a cover designer who iterated on it and kind of cleaned it up to make it presentable, and I think he did a fantastic job. So yeah, it's fair to say that the original image was created by me, and then he continued to evolve it. I see a hand up, yes.
The double arcs, something that exists or something that can be created?
Is the double arcs, wow, something that exists or had to be created? That's a tricky question, actually. And I want to answer this. It's actually a really strange question, knowing what I know. Ask the question one more time.
Is the double arcs something that exists or had to be created? Like, did you make the arcs or are they just out?
Is a double arc something that exists or were created? Let me think about this. I don't want to give away too much on this, so I'm going to have to punt. I apologize.
No, that's okay. No bear spray. That's okay. Now that the Netflix show came out, how many clues are in the show?
How many clues are in the show? I don't think I've actually, funny enough, I don't think I've ever counted. And some of them are kind of compounds. You have to look at a number of scenes in order to understand something singular. So with that in mind, the number of singular clues, let me just count them up in my mind. 1 second. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are at least 5 singular clues, at least. I think probably more if I really thought about it. Yeah. At least 5.
Okay, that's good, thank you. That's a good answer. Next, this cipher is tough. Can you give us a hint?
The cipher is actually really meant to be approachable. It's not, you don't need an advanced math degree or anything. Actually, you don't need a math degree at all to solve this thing. I mean, if you can add 2 numbers together, if you can do basic, say, multiplication, whatever, you're fine. So, which 2 numbers? You pick. I want to make sure I get this right. What was the question? Oh, the cipher. The cipher. The cipher is not in the poem. It is elsewhere. Was say that.
Okay, well, that's a good one. That's a good answer.
And I should also clarify, the cipher was just, I couldn't help myself. It's not a critical hint. You don't need to solve the cipher to find the treasure. More than anything, all right, more than anything, the cipher is more of a nod or a hint to what the container is.
That's good. Okay, the question is it walking distance from water's silent flight to round the bend past the hole?
Yeah, just to reread this. Is it walking distance from water's silent flight to round the bend past the hole? Boy. I'm not sure if I want to answer this. Let me think about this a moment.
The difference for a 71-year-old person and a 10-year-old. That would be me, the 71.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Whoa,
Yep.
that's awesome. Good one. That helps. That's good. On a scale of 1 to Forrest Fenn, how would you rate the difficulty of your hunt?
You know, difficulty is such a subjective thing. I think for something that is very approachable to one person can be next to impossible for another. And that's actually where a lot of my time or my thinking process was spent. I designed this in a way where it can be solved in different ways, but you'll all get there at the end of the day. So it's not, how do I phrase this? There are multiple ways to solve this treasure hunt, and some are arguably more challenging than others. And I think there's probably what I call an optimal solution, and then there are a few ways that I actually basically put in safeguards in case someone might not quite understand one clue, they could still limp along and figure it out, if that makes sense. So the question, I want to make sure I get this right. So on a scale of 1 to Forrest Fenn, how would you rate the difficulty? So I don't know how you all felt when you saw Forrest Fenn's solution or the purported solution. How did you feel about that? Did you think it was really hard or too easy? And I think that's different for different people. Some people might have said that's the most ridiculous solution I've ever heard of. May or may not have been hard, but they just didn't like it. And that's the issue is, I know when the solution is revealed, there will be people in this room that will say, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard of. I know it. And there will be other people that will, I think, be maybe delighted by it, I hope. So there's no pleasing everybody. I did the best that I could, I think, given the time and resources that I had, which is actually another thing I should mention. I actually thought that I had more time. So I really thought that the series was going to come out later in the year. And when I got the call saying, hey, it's coming out in like a month or a month and a half, it was kind of like, I got to get moving. I mean, of course, I had already hidden the treasure, but I actually wanted more time to kind of hammer on the book. I called my editor and said, hey, guess what? I've got a bunch of chicken scratch. You got 1 week to edit this. Good luck. So it was just a total scramble. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the publishing process, but it's pretty intense. So I don't think that answers your question really, but on a scale of 1 to 4 is Fenn, somewhere in the middle, how's that?
That works. That's good. How big was the biggest fish you have caught?
Well, I think my dad has already added 10 pounds to it, so I'll only add 1 more pound. No, it was in New Mexico at Heron Lake, and actually it was kind of a cool day because it's the fishing that I hated, which is trolling. And you got a lot of line out, it's a lead line, and it's color coded to show how deep in the water you are. You got a ton of line out, and you know, the rod just almost cracks in half, and we're hung up on a stump, you know, and so I just remember reeling on this thing, trying to reel in the stump, and at some point I realized, oh my gosh, it's moving, it's a fish. And it actually at the time ended up being the 2nd largest trout in the state of New Mexico, and it was actually in the local newspapers and stuff. It was pretty exciting at the time because I was really young, and I guess for legal reasons, or as my dad put it, for legal reasons, it was listed in the paper that he caught it, which was kind of funny. And of course, you know, he wanted to have this fish mounted, and it was the taxidermist kept the fish over the winter, and we got it in the spring. And when it came to the house, my dad looked at it and he says, you know, that fish must have shrunk and being in the freezer all winter. It was definitely way bigger than this, you know. And so I still have the fish, actually. It's at my house, but yeah, that was the biggest. I don't recall how big it is, but I'm sure somebody could track down the newspaper article and see. So, yeah.
Justin, did you really break your leg?
Yeah, so for those that have not read the book, I mentioned that I had broke my tibia, and I had to hide a treasure after doing that. Yes, I did break it. It was not a fun situation. I was on the mend at the time. I really actually didn't want to go around kind of like a peg leg guy hiding a treasure, but I was out of time. That was basically, I spent as much time as I could recovering, and then for a number of reasons, I had to just go and do this. And so I had to do it with a busted leg. It was not super fun. Yeah.
How do you tie your fly hook to your line?
Well, everybody loves a good clinch knot. I think there's probably some argument as to whether or not the enhanced clinch knot is a better knot than the original, but I generally prefer the classic clinch knot. Yeah.
The treasure is on public land. The sale of BLM land have an effect on the hidden treasure. So I guess he's saying, would the sale of BLM land have an effect on the hidden treasure?
So avoiding the political implications of this as much as I can, I think it is fair to say that there is a lot of public land right now that is at risk. And it is at risk of being sold to private individuals and to companies. And this is a big reason why I hid the treasure, is I wanted people to be aware, and I wanted, I wanted people to appreciate the lands that we have. And so I felt if I could get people outdoors and to experience it, that they would be better stewards and that they would be champions of the lands that mean so much to, I hope, everybody here. Thank you. So the question is, will this have an effect on the treasurer? And I think the honest answer is I don't know. Things can change. And so I'll definitely keep people updated. If there's a situation where, the treasurer is basically inaccessible at some point, I will do my very best to let you know if I'm still around, which I certainly hope. I don't want the treasure hunt to last that long. So at this point, and this is actually why I mention, I think in the legal language, on the website and in the book, I know that's a lot of boring stuff, but this is why I mention as of this date, it is publicly accessible, because I don't know what tomorrow brings. And I really hope that our public lands remain public, and I hope everybody in this room appreciates it as much as I do.
Justin, does the book mention the checkpoint? Does the poem mention the checkpoint?
So the poem is in the book, and so I think it's fair to say, I'm not trying to mince words. The poem does in effect mention the checkpoint because that is a stage of your journey. So it is fair to say that the checkpoint is part of the poem, yeah.
Thank you.
You guys don't feel like you have to stick around if you're falling asleep. You can just leave. So.
Could you talk about your 5-year job experience during college and after? What was your major in college?
Yeah. So first off, I never graduated. I studied computer science. I left college when I was a junior for an internship that turned into a full-time position down in Tucson, Arizona. And then from there, yeah, I think I mentioned this in the book. It was my tour de fails. I had a lot of disastrous interviews. It was really terrible. Public speaking is a struggle for me, so I apologize. So yeah, I ended up at Microsoft, and I worked there for a number of years on a lot of different things. And I worked at the Walt Disney Company for the better part of a decade. I think I worked in pretty much every division they had, anywhere from consumer products to their international division to Disney streaming service, Imagineering, a little bit of everything. It was a ton of fun. I worked at Visa in collaboration with Apple and the Apple Pay system you use on your phone. Golly, what else? A lot of startups over the years too. It was kind of a blur. It was a lot of companies. But always new challenges. So yeah, I studied computer science, but I left my junior year. So, yeah.
Okay, this is a series of 2 things or people, and I guess you're to pick which you prefer. Bob Dylan or Joni Mitchell? Do you know who they are?
You laugh, but I'm afraid to answer that question honestly. I'll say Bob Dylan, because I'm much more aware who that is.
Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Oh, man. Oh boy, I feel like I'm going to get lynched either way here.
You can't go.
I'll say the Beatles. Yeah.
Okay. Is that Unix or Linux?
Yeah, Unix or Linux. Unix or Linux, jeez. I mean, I think these days there are some really good flavors or distributions of Linux, so I think for most people, Linux is probably much more approachable than a more raw Unix system. Yeah.
Okay. Bill Gates or Steve Jobs? Oh. This is going to get you in trouble.
Oh my goodness. For better or for worse, Steve Jobs was a visionary. I think he had a profound understanding of not only technology, but timing. And timing in the market is just as important, if not more important, than the technology itself. There are many cases in history where somebody's designed something incredible, but it was too early, and people weren't ready to accept it yet. And so Steve Jobs understood the whole marketing strategy, and I feel like, oh boy, it's probably going to get me in trouble. I feel like Apple has lost a little bit about little of that since Steve has left, and it's been a kind of a slow but steady decline. Bill Gates, on the other hand, I mean, the guy was a brilliant businessman. I have a lot of respect for him. I actually, funny story. I used to work at Building 50 at Microsoft, and I was always in a hurry. I don't really know why, but I was always running around trying to solve the next thing. And I ran around a hallway, and I knocked him over. Super embarrassing. And I think, as I recall, he mentioned it at like a conference the next day about some engineer running him over. I was sure I was going to get fired. But I had a tremendous amount of respect for him too, so it's not that I'm choosing one or the other. I just think they had different strengths. Yeah.
So I have a question that's actually not on the card, but now we're talking about Microsoft, and we know that Justin has gotten patents while he worked at Microsoft. Would you be willing to talk about any of your patents at Microsoft? And we saw them. We saw them on the shelf in the Netflix series. So.
Oh yeah, this is probably pretty boring stuff. Sorry. No, I mean, it's technology stuff. For instance, like on your iPhone, if you were to, you have an app there, and you tap on it, and generally it asks for credentials, username and password to log in. That was one of my patents from many years ago. The concept of bringing a website closer to your device and having a more enhanced experience. And it was very contextual. So for instance, let's say Bank of America. You have a B of A app now instead of going to bankofamerica.com on your phone. Some people still do, but the app is generally better. But the underpinnings for how all of that fits together are some of the patents.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer here. Star Trek or Star Wars?
These are very divisive questions. I guess I'm not a very good nerd. This is funny. So I had never seen either for the longest time. And I recall when I was in elementary school, kids would role play from Star Wars, and I had no idea who any of the characters were, and so I was always R2-D2. So I just kind of walk around going beep, boop, boop, It was the safe role for me at the time. But years later, when I actually watched them, I think in middle school or junior high, as it were at the time, I think I'd prefer Star Wars. Yeah. The original ones, to be clear, yeah.
Okay, I'm ad-libbing again. In case you haven't already figured it out, Justin is a genius. And Justin, would you be willing to talk about how you created the Star Wars in Disney World?
The time that I spent in Imagineering was really cool, and there were a lot of projects that were worked on at that time. In fact, I think probably still to this day there's some NDAs in place, so I kind of have to be careful about what I mention. But one of the things that I created was what they called Media Vault, which was all of Imagineering had a lot of ideas flowing in, and there were a lot of different ways for these ideas to be captured, and they needed a very secure system, because if these ideas like Star Wars Land, for instance, were to leak out, then it would be a big deal. It would be a big problem for the company. And so there was a lot of kind of security that went around creating that system. But work in the parks itself, and across the two major parks in the U.S. was really interesting. But can't really expand too much on a lot of that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. From where you leave your car to search, is it a mile or less to the treasure container?
This is a really strange question to me. From where you leave your car to search, is it a mile or less to the treasure chest?
He said chest.
It's not a
just said
chest.
chest.
I should be clear. It looks like it says chest. It's not a chest. It is a container, though. I don't think this question works because by the time you're going to get the treasure, you're not searching, you're retrieving.
Wow, that's a good one. That is good. Awesome. You want him to say it again? Okay.
By the time you're going to get the treasure, you're not searching, you're retrieving.
Whoa. Holy cow. That's good. What is your most proficient programming language?
So for those that don't know, I still am a programmer or software engineer or whatever you like to call it. For many years, I guess probably most proficient language these days would be C++ or Java.
I think he already answered this. Has anyone reached the checkpoint? You answered that, right? This one's really super long. We'll save this till the end. Is there a range of elevation where the treasure is? And I will expound. So Forrest Fenn basically said it's what, between 5,000 and 10,200 feet.
Yeah, the American West has a very diverse range of elevations.
Pretty basic.
Yeah, it's pretty basic. I mean, I can put an upper bound on it. It's certainly below 11,000 feet.
That's good. How far is it from the first clue to the last one in miles? I think that's what it is.
How far is it from the first clue to the last one in miles? This actually is not possible to answer. And I'm not being coy. Based on how the clues are structured, I think it's the wrong question to ask. Is it hard to answer what now? Is it hard to answer these questions because you have to iterate through the poem more than one time? No, that's not why it's hard to answer. No.
I think you answered that one before. Okay. Are the clues in your poem in consecutive order from top to bottom, from the first clue to the treasure?
Yeah, I think for those who are aware, I think I answered this at some point. It's fair to say they're in consecutive order. Yeah.
This one, it's specific, starting at the top of the poem. To
Starting
the
at the
instead
top
of
to the bottom. Yeah, that's fine. Yep, it's consecutive. Yep.
Okay. Top to bottom. Here's a Forrest Fenn question. Is there a 200 or 500 foot searcher?
So for those that are unaware, Forrest Fenn had announced at some point that someone was within a certain number of feet of the treasure. And I think he said either 200 or 500 feet, depending on what stage of the treasure hunt. It's probably a little early in the treasure hunt for me to say how close people have been, but there have been people, I'll say that there have been less than, I'm trying to recall some of the emails I got. There have been people that have been less than 2 miles, and certainly even less than that. Yeah.
Okay. Was it me?
No comment.
This is a good one. Do you consider railroad tracks a structure? Is the entire hunt based on naturally occurring structures and landscapes?
That's a hard-hitting question. Do I consider railroad tracks a structure? I consider them to be a man-made structure, yes. They were made by man. They're not a building, they are a structure. Is the entire hunt based on naturally occurring structures and landscapes? So I think I mentioned earlier that there are a couple of different ways to work through the poem, and I tried to do that to be, to accommodate how different people think. And so depending on how you interpret it, I think it could be true to say that yes, the entire hunt could be based on naturally occurring structures and landscapes, but I think some people could quibble. So I should clarify that by saying there's one clue in here where arguably someone could say there is a man-made implication to it. Yeah.
Oh man, that's long. Okay, this is good. Is the part of the river where your mom's fishing photo is accessible to public other than walking up or downstream?
Yeah, so there's a picture in the book of my mother on the beaverhead. She is wading, and that picture predates me. So I can't say with certainty, but my guess, just kind of knowing the landscape, is that it is likely not publicly accessible on either side. You would have to wade to it.
This is a multi-part one. Can you give a floor the treasure is not below? A floor.
So I think this is an elevation-related question. Can you give a floor the treasure is not below? I think I'm not going to answer any other elevation-related questions, but it's below 11,000. Still contend that no red herrings, intentional or otherwise. So I did not put any intentional red herrings in the book or the poem or anything like that. You know, it's fair to say that like the poem itself is obfuscation, right? It's a way to hide information. Otherwise, somebody would have already found the treasure. But in terms of red herrings, there's nothing intentional. Now, there might be some unintentional ones. For instance, I talk about, I don't know, say a green table, and somebody thinks, oh, it has to do with the color green. I didn't actually mean for that. I just mentioned the table's green. So I cannot control how other people interpret it, but to the best of my abilities, no, like I didn't put in any intentional red herrings into the book or the poem or anything like that. And then the last one was, will you announce if the checkpoint is reached? If I'm aware, yes, I would announce that. Yeah.
Do you like pickles?
Do I like pickles? Yes, I like dill pickles especially. I have a funny story about pickles, but we'll save that for another time.
Why not wait for your leg to heal?
Yeah, I think I talked a little bit about that earlier. There was a number of circumstances where I had to just get things done, and it was really a function of time. I just couldn't wait any longer because there was a whole series of events that were set in motion and basically a schedule to keep, so to speak. And so I had to act, and it wasn't optimal, but just had to make it happen.
I think you did this one. The cipher has this old brain stumped. Any hints?
Oh yeah, I think I mentioned earlier the cipher is not in the poem. So I hope that helps. We'll see how things go. We'll get a little more time, and maybe somebody will figure it out. Yeah.
How do you feel AI changed the hunt?
Yeah, I know I mentioned that earlier. That was actually the biggest risk that I saw to this treasure hunt, was somebody whipping out ChatGPT or whatever the latest large language model artificial intelligence offering is on the market, and just say, punch it in, and oh, here's the answer. There are some, you'll notice, I think in the beginning of the book, I do not give, I think, permission for people to use, run the book through AI, but I realized I just cannot prevent that. And so I did everything in my power to ensure that AI will not be the winner. But it's really hard to control, like I mentioned. AI is getting very, very smart, and it will soon be smarter than all of us if it isn't already. So I did the best that I could, and I feel like, as it stands right now, we're fending it off. So we'll see how the future holds.
This is sort of long. There was a small D, like the letter D as in dog, hidden just above the M in maps on the spine of the book. Why was it removed in the new print? Is it relevant or a clue to something in this hunt?
Yeah, so we're talking about some of the formatting differences that showed up between the first and second editions of the book. So for those that are unaware, if you look at your book, you'll see on the cover, it either has like a little sticker on it, sort of looks like a sticker, and some don't. So the first printing is the ones that do not have the sticker. Both books are fine. Consider the one without the sticker to be kind of a collector's edition or something. But between those two prints, I actually ended up having to make some very small formatting changes because the cover designer noticed that the spacing wasn't exactly right, and it was bugging him more than it was bugging me. And so he made some slight changes. There's no intentional clues there in differences in the cover between the first and second edition. Yeah. Is there any clue in the cover art at all? I have not specified.
So that means yes.
I know we have more questions, but I just actually wanted to follow up on this hidden mark that I put in this book that probably one of you have. So before we get into that, I did want to mention what I'm shipping to whoever wins. So for anybody who's seen the Netflix series, the treasure I stored in a saddleback leather briefcase, and I still have that original briefcase that held the treasure, and I'd like to give it to whoever wins. So I'm happy to ship that out. So if you will, if you have a book that you've purchased over the last few days that has my signature on it, turn to page 150. And about halfway down the page, oh, I heard a bingo. Oh, I thought we had one. See, this is why I don't say what the container is. No. Page 150, about halfway down in black ink that sort of bled, I apologize. I have written an email address, and it's a customized email address that goes straight to me. So if you're shy and you don't want to say you won right here, that's fine. You can just email me. Otherwise, if anybody has it here in this room, feel free to stand up. Wow, I actually thought somebody would be here, or the person would be here. Okay, well, please spread the word. It's on page 150. Unfortunately, the email address kind of got a little smudged with the ink, so it's at iCloud.com, not lcloud, in case you're confused. So just send me an email with that address, and I'm happy to ship out the Saddleback container to you.
I would really like to have that. Is there any way I can manufacture it where it would look real?
Actually, there's probably two other things that I'll include just for fun. So people had noticed that there were 2 coffee mugs in at least one of the scenes. I'll ship you the coffee mugs as well. So.
Is the hiding spot meaningful for its beauty, its symbolism, or for sentimental reasons?
Is the hiding spot meaningful for its beauty, symbolism, or sentimental reasons? I would say all of the above.
Oh, good. Good. I'm keeping that. Why are the e-book pictures in black and white, and why are they still in RGB instead of grayscale? Why is the coins picture in the ebook in color? I don't even know.
Yeah, so I think the question is, why the heck is this ebook in black and white? Why didn't you just do it in color like the book? The answer is because of compatibility. So there are a lot of e-readers out there that either do not support color or they have severe constraints on the size of the file, and so I tried to make it as small as possible. That's basically it. And then additionally, I wanted at least one color picture in there, so that's why I chose the, I think it's the coins in the ebook that are all color. So if your device supports color, you'll see that one in color. These are a lot of questions. You guys are gonna fall asleep here. Maybe just a few more. Maybe we'll just do a few more here. Yeah.
This is a good one, and it's short. If you were doing this treasure hunt, how would you train Tucker to help you?
As I mentioned, there are a few different ways to approach this poem. I mean, there is like a super brute force way, but it would be very, very difficult. So, I mean, I suppose if you had a dog that could sniff gold and you were in a very specific area, then that would be beneficial to you, but that would be really, I think, challenging to do overall. So more than anything, I think it's just good outdoor manners, making sure that the dog is a good steward, isn't chasing after elk or worse, bears, you know, and keeping your dog in control. That's basically it. Oh, I see a hand up. Yeah, what measures did I take to ensure that a random hiker or fisherman would not happen upon it? I touched on this, I think, a little bit in a prior interview. I did not put it in very close proximity to any man-made trail. I didn't want someone, you know, trying to relieve themselves on the side of the trail and, you know, pee on it or something. So, so it is a little ways off. And then, yeah, I think that's the only thing I want to say about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
A couple of short ones here. Can you drive a semi to the location?
Can I drive like a semi-truck?
I think so.
Oh my goodness. Can you drive a semi to the location?
I assume he means a truck.
Yeah. I guess that means to the location of the treasure itself. No, you do have to, I'm sorry to say, you have to hike a little, but not too far. Sorry? Can you drive the semi to the parking space? Well, that's a loaded question. That implies that there's a parking space. I think that's all I'll say about that, yeah.
Will you continue giving clues, breadcrumbs during the hunt?
Will I continue to give clues? Yeah, at some point. I feel like it's still pretty early. Actually, I don't know if it's early or not. Like sometimes I'm wondering, like, wow, how has this not been found yet? But yeah, I think if it kind of drags on, I will help out. Yeah. You're being paid. Yeah. I think this will be the last question here.
And this is what we all have been dying to know. How much did it hurt when you fell off your bike, and do you still have your teeth?
It was not fun. And no, actually, most of my front teeth are not real. They were all busted out during the bike accident, so it hurt a lot. How's that? Oh, we got a hand up. Is the treasure buried? I haven't specified if it is or not, but as I mentioned before, if you know where to look, it wouldn't matter. Yeah. In the back. Is the bride live? Well, that's kind of the bride, I will go so far as to say the bride is not, it's not a person that's alive right now. Is what I'm referring to alive. Yeah, I don't think I want to answer that one, sorry. Yeah. Yes? Are the clues in the one treasure all in one state? I haven't specified. I might consider being clearer on that in the future. Yes?
Physical objects or clues that you can find along the way, or is it all metaphor?
Are there physical objects that you can find along the way? Yeah, I think it's fair to say there are. Yeah. Yep. Yes? Will I read the poem for you? Sure. Yeah. Somebody have a book handy? Oh, great. Thank you. Okay. Before I read this, I appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you guys for your time, and I hope you're having fun with it. And we'll see how things go. If, like I said, if this thing hasn't been found here in, a couple of months or something, I'll try and throw some more bones out there if necessary. Excuse me. Beyond the map's edge, can you find what lives in time, flowing through each measured rhyme? Wisdom waits in shadowed sight for those who read these words just right. As hope surges, clear and bright, walk near water's silent flight. Round the bend, past the hole, I wait for you to cast your pole. In Ursa East, his realm awaits. His bride stands guard at ancient gates. Her foot of 3 at 20 degree, return her face to find the place. Double arcs on granite bold, where secrets of the past still hold. Beyond the reach of time's swift race, wonder guards this sacred space. Truth rests not in clever minds, not in tangled, twisted finds. Like a river's steady flow, what you seek, you already know. Anyway, thank you guys again for attending. Appreciate it. Sorry for the long lines, and have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was awesome. You did great.
Thank you. Thank you for your help. Thank you.